Hi, my name's Adeline, and last weekend, my sister laughed at me in front of strangers, said I looked too poor to be there. The boutique staff joined in. No one stopped her, not even my mother. But what they didn't know is that the man quietly walking in behind them was the husband I never mentioned? And what happened next? Let's just say, when the truth walks in wearing a tailored suit, silence is louder than shame. Before we dive in, what time are you listening to this? And where are you? Drop a comment. This story, it might just echo something you've lived through too. Callista called it a girl's day out, her tone syrupy sweet over the phone that morning. "You should come with me to Jade Vault," she said. "They've got some new pendants in for Mother's Day. Let's pick something for Mom together." She didn't have to twist my arm. I'd been meaning to find a gift anyway, something small but meaningful. I slipped on my soft beige cardigan, the same one I'd worn for years, and grabbed my grandmother's old leather wallet from the table by the door. The stitching was frayed in places, but I still ran my fingers over it with care. It smelled faintly of cedar and mint lotion, and I always carried it like armor. Callista pulled up in her white Tesla, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. "You ready?" she asked, flashing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I nodded and slid into the passenger seat. She didn't ask about my morning, my work, or how I was doing. She talked about herself the entire 10-minute drive to Scottsdale Mall. Jade Vault stood like a glass temple at the center of the plaza, its emerald signage gleaming beneath the Arizona sun. Inside, marble floors stretched underfoot, lit by chandeliers that cast sharp diamonds of light across the displays. Women floated between counters, their heels clicking softly, all draped in silk and confidence. I could feel it the second I walked in, how out of place I was. Callista led the way, her heels tapping like a metronome. She wore a fitted blazer, gold hoops, and that perfect red lipstick she never seemed to reapply. Heads turned when she passed. I kept a quiet step behind her, holding my wallet like it meant something here. "This one's cute," she said loudly, stopping in front of a display case. Then, without even glancing my way, she added, "Not that you'd be able to tell." A few boutique staff looked up. One smiled, tight-lipped, politely dismissive. I looked down at my shoes. Comfortable, yes. Trendy? Absolutely not. The kind of flats you wear when you're on your feet working all day. As I turned to browse a tray of pendants, the store manager stepped over with a practiced smile. She was all sharp lines, tailored black suit, hair in a sleek bun, voice like velvet wrapped around judgment. "Would you like me to show you something from our clearance upstairs?" she asked, looking straight at me. I blinked. "I'm actually looking for a jade pendant for my mother," I said softly, trying not to bristle. Callista chimed in, voice just loud enough for the nearby customers to hear. "She likes to look, but don't worry, she's not really shopping." She laughed like it was a private joke, then added, "She's just here for the air conditioning." The manager chuckled and turned to Callista. "Would you like a glass of champagne while you browse?" "Love one," Callista beamed, accepting it like royalty. No one offered me anything. I kept browsing. I didn't want to give her, or anyone else, the satisfaction of seeing me flinch. My hands were steady as I examined a simple jade pendant. It was small, round, with a light green hue that reminded me of my grandmother's eyes when she was young. Not flashy, just honest. "That's a nice one," I murmured to myself. Callista's voice floated over my shoulder, sharp as glass. "She always does this. Pretends she's one of us. It's kinda cute, honestly." I froze. Two women nearby turned. One whispered something. The other stifled a smile, the kind of smile that says, "Bless your heart, I should have left." But I stayed. I straightened my shoulders, walked up to the counter, and quietly placed the pendant down. "I'd like to buy this one." The manager raised a brow, glanced down, then looked back up at me. "Oh, I'm sorry. That one's reserved, for a regular client." Behind me, Callista chuckled. "It's okay. She just likes to pretend. You know, play dress-up." I said nothing. I placed the pendant back on the velvet tray. My fingers were cold, though the room was warm. I didn't cry. I didn't defend myself. I just turned, holding my grandmother's wallet a little tighter. As I walked toward the door, I caught sight of the security camera above the checkout counter. Its tiny red light blinked, capturing everything: Callista's smirk, the store manager's smirk, my silence. Behind me, Callista's voice rang out like a song she'd been rehearsing. "This'll make a cute little story for our group chat." I didn't look back. I stepped out into the Arizona sun, wondering how many times you could be erased by your own blood before you vanished completely. The air outside the boutique still held the burn of late spring, but it couldn't compare to the heat in my chest. I didn't say a word as I slid back into Callista's car. She didn't either. She adjusted the AC vents, tapped on her phone, then finally tossed a glance my way. "Try not to embarrass anyone next time," she muttered, eyes fixed on the road. "It's just a store, Odalyn. You make everything so dramatic." I clenched my jaw. Not because of what she said, I'd stopped expecting decency from her a long time ago, but because somehow I still let her talk to me like that, still got in her car, still gave her chances to be someone she clearly never wanted to be. The ride to Mom's house was quiet, save for the low hum of Callista's playlist, trendy pop music that grated like nails on glass. She didn't ask if I was okay, didn't acknowledge what happened inside the boutique, just scrolled through her phone and smirked every now and then, probably replying to someone in that group chat she mentioned. When we pulled into Mom's driveway, I gathered my small box from my lap. The jade pendant I'd bought weeks ago sat inside, nestled in soft cotton. I'd ordered it online after seeing Mom admire a similar one in an old jewelry catalog. I'd even paid extra for engraving, "To June with love." Callista didn't wait for me. She beeped the lock and strode to the porch ahead of me like she owned the place. I followed, slower, pressing the gift box gently in my palm. Mom was in the kitchen, arranging tulips and lilies in a large ceramic vase. The familiar scent of lemon cleaner and freshly brewed coffee filled the house, grounding me just a little. "Hey, Mom," I said, stepping into the entryway. She turned briefly, barely glancing up. "Oh, hi, honey." The moment she saw Callista, her whole face lit up. "There's my girl!" Mom's voice shifted, brighter, warmer, whole. She wiped her hands on a towel and opened her arms for a hug. "You made it." "I told you I would," Callista said, setting her bag on the counter like it belonged there. "Wouldn't miss your weekend." I stood back, invisible. Like usual. Trying to find my place, I walked over to the kitchen island and set the small box near Mom's coffee mug. "I brought something for you. Just a little something for Mother's Day." Mom turned toward it, lifted the lid. Her fingers brushed the green stone, eyes scanning the delicate chain. Then she smiled. "Oh, Callista, this is beautiful." My heart stopped. I looked at Callista, expecting her to laugh it off or correct her. Maybe say, "Actually, Odie brought that." Something, anything. But she didn't. She just leaned on the counter, sipped from her iced tea, and gave a soft, practiced smile. I opened my mouth, closed it. My words had nowhere to go. Later, I excused myself to the bathroom, needing air more than anything else. On the way back, I passed the trash bin in the hallway. The lid wasn't fully closed. Something inside caught my eye. A crumpled receipt. Mine. I bent slightly, hands trembling. Pulled it out. My name had been scratched off in pen, slashed right through like I'd never existed. In its place, written neatly, was Callista K. I stood frozen. The pendant, the gift, everything. She hadn't just let the moment slide. She had planned this. I walked back slowly, the receipt folded in my hand, heat rising to my ears. Back in the kitchen, Mom was placing the pendant on her jewelry rack, humming softly. "Mom," I said, voice quiet but firm. "I bought that for you, the jade one." She didn't look at me. "Don't be silly," she replied. "Callista gave it to me." "No, she didn't, I did. Weeks ago. I have the order confirmation, She turned then, setting the pendant down. "Why must you always make things difficult?" That sentence didn't just land, It shattered. I stared at her, really stared, at the woman who raised me, the woman whose hands once wiped my tears after my first heartbreak, whose voice used to read me bedtime stories when Callista refused. And she had seen it. She had seen the tag was changed, seen me standing there, ignored. She knew. But she chose the lie. The rest of the visit blurred. Later, as the sun began dipping lower behind the backyard trees, Callista announced, "We're doing dinner tonight with Mom and some friends. Just a little thing, industry people." She gave me that look, the one she always used when she wanted to cut and pretend it was a compliment. "You'd feel out of place. You know, it's kind of a networking dinner." I nodded once, didn't fight it. "Sure, I've got things to do anyway." Neither of them stopped me as I picked up my bag. No drive safe, no thanks for coming, no love you. Just silence as I walked out. On the way to the curb, I passed Callista's luxury SUV. Its polished windows reflected back a distorted image of me. Tired eyes, shoulders drawn in, clutching that worn-out wallet like a lifeline. I wasn't sure what they saw when they looked at me, but I was starting to see it. Someone who'd become far too easy to overlook. Even my mother knew the truth, and she looked me in the eye and chose the lie instead. I drove home from Mom's in silence, windows down, hoping the rush of desert air might clear the ache that had settled in my chest. The streets of Scottsdale were golden and quiet, Sunday easing in like a sigh. But inside me, everything throbbed. Not from shock anymore, just the slow pulse of knowing I'd been erased. Again. My little condo was still, sun filtering through the blinds in streaks across the living room carpet. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and went straight to bed without brushing my teeth. Not out of laziness, just that bone-deep exhaustion that comes when you've been reminded, for the 100th time, that you don't belong. The next morning, I woke up early, not because I wanted to, but because my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. 19 notifications blinked across my lock screen. 19. All from the family group chat. I sat up, pulse quickening. For a moment, my mind went to the worst. Someone in the hospital? An accident? But it wasn't that. The first message was a video. I tapped it. The image filled my screen. There I was, me, from the day before, standing at the boutique counter, holding the jade pendant. Callista's voice cackled in the background. "She just likes to play rich. She can't actually afford it." The manager's smirk, the way he took the box from my hands and handed it off, like I was a child stealing candy. And there I was, backing away. My face, stunned, caught in profile as I turned to leave. A laughing emoji floated beneath the clip, sent by my mother. Under it, a message from Lauren, Callista's friend. Still shopping like a princess on a peasant budget. No one, no cousin, no aunt, no distant uncle said a word to defend me. The clip had already been shared across multiple messages. Different angles, different timestamps. Someone had taken the footage from the boutique's security camera, maybe with a phone filming the monitor. One of them must have asked the staff to show it back, probably for laughs. My hands trembled. I wanted to feel rage, but all I felt was tired. Tired in a way that made me wonder if anything I did would ever matter to them again. If it ever had. I closed the chat. Seconds later, another notification popped up. A new photo. Mom, Callista, and 4 other family friends, dressed to the nines, wine glasses in hand, seated around a long candlelit table. The caption read, "Dunn family, whole and proud." There was no sign I'd ever existed. I searched the tags. No mention of me. A comment from a cousin I hadn't seen since high school. "Where's your sister?" Callista replied, "She had other things." I sat still for a long moment. Not angry, just erased. I opened my laptop and pulled up Callista's public profile. Scroll after scroll, post after post, smiles, celebrations, brunches, charity galas, and always, always our beautiful family this, and so lucky to have these roots that. But something caught my eye. A birthday party last year. I had been there. I knew I had. I'd brought the cake. I'd taken the photo. And yet, When I looked at the post, there I wasn't. The picture had been cropped. Another one, a Thanksgiving dinner from 2 years back. I'd made the green bean casserole. I remembered the smell, the laughter, even Callista's eye roll when I brought it, but there were no signs of me in the photos shared, not even the group photo. I wasn't just missing. I was being deleted. My finger hovered over the screen, stunned by how meticulous it was. Like someone had gone in with a scalpel and cut me out frame by frame. I left the couch, walked into my bedroom, and opened the bottom drawer of my dresser. Inside, buried beneath an old sweater, was a framed photo, me and my grandmother, sitting in her backyard, sun catching the strands of her silver bun. Her hand was on mine, no filters, no edits, just us. I held it close and whispered, "You saw me," even when no one else did. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't the group chat. It was a number I didn't recognize at first. No name attached, just a message. "Hey, saw you in that video. Are you okay?" I stared at it, unsure how to breathe. Then the second message came. "It's Elijah, from college. Remember me?" Elijah. I hadn't heard that name in over a decade. I stared at the message for a full minute before my fingers even moved. Elijah. He hadn't called himself that back in college. Everyone said Eli. I used to tease him about it, say it sounded too clean-cut for someone who practically lived in the art building, wore ink-stained jeans, and read Neruda in the laundry room. I typed, "Hey, I'm okay, I think." Not even 30 seconds passed before the typing bubbles showed up. "I'm in Scottsdale today. I was passing through, but if you're up for it, brunch?" I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to see him, but because I wasn't sure which version of me he remembered. The girl who dared to write op-eds calling out our own university president, or the one who helped him breathe through a panic attack before his first internship interview by pacing the quad with him for an hour? Definitely not the one who'd just gone viral for being treated like gum stuck under a boutique counter. Still, I found myself replying, "Sure, 1 p.m., okay?" He sent an address. A tiny brunch cafe tucked behind a used bookstore I used to love. I dressed simply, a tan blouse, jeans, the one pair of sandals I owned without a worn strap, and I carried my grandmother's wallet. Not because it matched, but because it had become the only thing that still felt like mine. By the time I got there, he was already seated by the window, 2 glasses of iced tea between his hands. His face hadn't changed much. Just a little older, sharper around the edges, but his eyes, warm and steady, felt like a memory pulled into the present. "Hey, stranger," he said, standing as I approached. "Hey, yourself." I sat, unsure what to do with my hands. He didn't waste time. "I saw the video," he said gently. I figured. "You okay?" I gave a half smile, not really knowing how to answer. "It's just family stuff." He didn't let me off easy. "Odalyn, that's not family stuff. That's cruelty. And it's not the you I remember." I glanced away, focusing on a child laughing near the patio. "You didn't used to shrink," he added, not unkindly. "You used to take up space without apologizing." The words landed softly but cut sharp. Because I remembered that girl too, the one who argued with professors, organized fundraisers, made people uncomfortable with how confidently she stood for things. I remembered her voice, and I remembered the last time I heard it, years ago. Eli reached for his glass. "You remember the time you practically dragged me to that interview? I almost didn't go." "You were spiraling," I smiled faintly. "And you were the only one who noticed." I wanted to tell him that I hadn't changed, not really, that life had just weathered me. But even I wasn't convinced anymore. When the check came, I reached into my bag for my wallet. Eli looked at it and smiled. "Still using that?" "It still works," I said, handing over my card. Sentimental. But before I could tuck it away again, I heard a voice behind me. Clear, crisp, feminine. "I can't believe she still carries that knockoff thing." The words didn't shout, but they hit like they had a spotlight behind them. I turned slightly. Lauren, Callista's ever-loyal friend. Standing 2 tables away, dressed in white linen, holding a mimosa. She was with 3 other women, all glowing with that curated sheen you only see on Instagram pages with affiliate links. Her voice dropped, but not low enough. That's the sister Callista helps out, the one they let tag along so they feel better about themselves. The women chuckled. Eli's hand tightened around his glass. I could feel his breath hitch. He looked like he wanted to stand, but I shook my head. I said nothing. Just slowly placed the wallet back into my bag and offered him a small smile. "I need some air," I said, rising quietly. He stood too. "You want me to—" "No. Just— thanks. For this." He didn't push. Just nodded, like he understood more than I could say. Outside the air was dry and sharp, the kind of desert heat that didn't hug you, it pushed against you. I leaned against a lamppost in the parking lot, eyes closed. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because it felt like I didn't even belong to the hurt anymore, just floating around it, like some invisible outline of a person everyone else could redraw however they liked. The phone buzzed again. I looked down. Merritt. I hadn't seen that name flash across my screen in months. I let it ring once, twice. My finger hovered, and by the 3rd ring, something shifted inside me. Not rage, not clarity, just decision. I picked it up. When I answered Merritt's call, I didn't expect my voice to sound steady, but it did. "Hey," I said quietly. His breath on the other end was soft but familiar. "You still carry that old wallet, don't you?" A laugh escaped me, unplanned, unguarded. "Of course I do. What else would I carry? My dignity?" He chuckled. "Don't sell yourself short, Dee. That wallet's been through hell with you, and it's still holding together." We didn't talk long. He wasn't calling to fix anything, just to remind me I wasn't invisible. We talked about nothing and everything for 10 minutes, and when I hung up, I felt oddly clear-headed, not happy, not hopeful, but still standing. By late evening, I realized I'd left my folder of contract notes and research papers at my mother's house the day before. They weren't important to anyone else, but they were mine. They were what I had left of my freelance casework, my attempts to restart a career in nonprofit consulting that had been derailed after a family emergency I'd been pulled into and never quite climbed out of. So I got in my car and drove back. The sun was already down, and the desert air had cooled. I parked along the curb, not wanting to pull into the driveway and feel like I was intruding again. The porch light was on, but the house inside was quiet, eerily so. No sound of a TV, no clatter from the kitchen, just the low hum of a dishwasher and the occasional creak of old wooden floorboards shifting. I stepped in. My shoes made soft contact with the tiles, but no one turned. My mother was at the counter arranging tea towels, her back to me. She didn't glance up. "I forgot a folder," I said. That was it. Callista's voice drifted from upstairs, something about her calendar for the week relayed on speakerphone to what sounded like a PR assistant. I walked into the living room and found my folder on the armrest of the couch, right where I'd left it. But before I turned to leave, something on the mantel caught my eye. It was the pendant. The jade pendant. The one I had ordered weeks ago, boxed with tissue paper and a handwritten note in Mom's favorite lavender ink. Now it sat center stage on the mantel, encased in a custom glass box with a brass label. I leaned in to read it. "To Mom, from your eldest, always proud to be your daughter. Love, Callista." I stood there, frozen. I'd felt many things before. Shame, anger, humiliation. But this was theft in slow motion, and worse, no one even tried to hide it. My throat burned, but no words came. I turned, clutching my folder to my chest like it could hold me up. "Mom?" I whispered. She didn't turn around. "I gave you that pendant." Finally, she faced me. Her expression wasn't cruel, just tired, dismissive. "Why does it always have to be about you?" That's all she said, as if what I'd seen didn't matter, as if truth only existed in how it made others feel. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I walked out, quiet as I'd come in. Back at home, I changed into an old cotton t-shirt and sweatpants, made tea I didn't drink, and opened my phone. The screen was still lit when I unlocked it. One message. From my cousin Janie. Meant to send this to Lauren. Oops. Just ignore. Attached. A screenshot. It was from a private family thread I hadn't been invited to. Maybe I'd been removed. Maybe I never existed in that version of our family. The image showed me, at the Jade Boutique, reaching for the pendant, the boutique manager smirking. Callista's caption, "Can't believe she really thought she could afford something real." A reply, "Poor thing." Then came my mother's response, simple, final. "We pity her, but we can't carry her forever." I stared at it. The screen didn't blur. I didn't cry. I just felt released. Like everything that had ever held me tethered to them, hope, guilt, longing, had quietly come undone. I placed the phone down, gently, like it was something sacred. Walked barefoot to the back patio and opened the screen door. The air outside was still. A single moth hovered near the porch light, batting softly against it over and over. I whispered into the dark, "I'm not yours to carry. I never was." And in that silence, for once, no one interrupted. Inside, my phone vibrated on the table. Merritt again. This time, I picked up on the first ring. He didn't start with hello. "You still carry that old wallet, don't you?" I smiled, because somehow he knew. Maybe always had. "Yeah," I said, "I do." "That's good," he replied. "Means you haven't forgotten who you are." And then, "Let's talk." It was the first time in weeks someone spoke to me like I hadn't already disappeared. When I woke up Tuesday morning, the air in my condo felt different, thicker somehow, like the silence itself was watching me. The world outside was starting to turn warm again, that Arizona kind of heat that you feel before you even open the window. Merritt knocked just after 8. He didn't bring flowers or food, just 2 cups of black coffee and that steady gaze of his, the one I used to lean on before everything got too heavy to carry. We sat at the small table near the window, the same one where I'd once written proposals and sorted bills. He watched me as I cradled the mug between my palms like it could give me courage. "I don't want revenge," I said quietly. "I don't want to burn it all down." He tilted his head. But I want to stop shrinking." There was a long pause. I didn't fill it. I let it settle between us like truth. He nodded. "So what's your ask?" "If I go back there, Jade Vault, will you walk in with me?" "Of course." I shook my head. "No, I mean let me go first. Let me walk in front this time." His eyes searched mine. "You know they'll try to knock you down again." I exhaled slowly. "Then let them try." We didn't say much after that. We finished our coffee. I didn't put on anything fancy, just clean jeans, a black top, and the wallet that somehow carried more of my dignity than any handbag ever could. By 11, I stood in front of Jade Vault's glass doors alone. I caught my reflection in the polished glass before stepping inside. No makeup, no mask, just me. The air conditioning inside hit sharp against my skin, and the faint smell of white tea and money wrapped around the place like armor. The same manager looked up from behind the counter. His expression didn't change, but his eyebrows ticked up. "Can I help you?" he asked, neutral tone overlaid with practiced indifference. Before I could answer, a voice shot from behind the register. "Oh, her again?" "Lauren." "Of course." She stepped out from the back like she'd just been waiting for her entrance. She was dressed in blush pink, head to toe like some curated Instagram post. Her heels clicked across the tile like applause meant for herself. I kept my tone calm. "I'm here about the pendant, the one my sister purchased." The manager leaned slightly forward. "Do you have a receipt?" "No," I said simply, "but I designed it." Lauren barked out a short laugh and turned away. "This is rich." The manager hesitated. "We custom design pieces for verified clients only. If you have the invoice, I can—" I shook my head gently. I'm not here to argue, just here to reclaim something that was never hers. He opened his mouth to say something, but didn't. A silence stretched between us, long enough for the tension to settle, but short enough to feel like it might snap. Then I heard it. Low, just behind me. Lauren, leaning close to a new associate I didn't recognize. She's not shopping. Last time she tried to walk out with something. The word shoplifter wasn't shouted, but it was loud enough to travel. The manager straightened. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises. I paused, felt the blood drain from my face, then return like a slow burn up my neck. But I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I smiled. It was small, measured, quiet, and it unsettled him. I turned on my heel and walked out without another word. Back at home, I texted Merritt. They want me out. Called me a thief. He called instead of texting back. You ready? I was ready the moment I walked in. By 2 p.m., Merritt was on a call, not with the boutique, but with someone higher up. Hi, this is Merritt Bishop, he said evenly. I'm calling on behalf of a partner involved with Jade Vault's product design process. I watched him pace the kitchen floor, every step deliberate. This isn't about her being my wife, he continued. It's about your staff spreading defamatory rumors about a co-founder's intellectual property. There was silence on the other end. Then he said, You'll want to check the store's security archives. Start with May 3rd. And he hung up. He didn't look at me right away. He took a slow sip of water first, like he wasn't even rattled. Tomorrow, he said, they'll come crawling. He was right. Just after 5, I got a call. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. This time, the boutique's landline number flashing on the screen. I answered. The manager's voice was careful now, polished, coated in nervous courtesy. Ms. K, we'd like to apologize for the earlier misunderstanding. We believe there's been some confusion regarding your visit and would be happy to discuss things in person. I didn't speak right away. He continued. You're welcome to come in tomorrow, whenever's convenient. I hung up. No thank you. No confirmation. Instead, I texted Merritt. Are you free tomorrow? His reply came back seconds later. For you? Always. This time, if they wanted to erase me, they'd have to do it in front of the man who watched me build myself. The air inside Jade Vault smelled the same. White tea, lacquered wood, cold florals with no soul. But something had shifted. Me. I wasn't walking in behind anyone this time. Merritt stayed a step behind, just like I asked. His suit was nothing flashy, just sharp enough to make every employee in that boutique freeze mid-movement when they caught sight of him. But it wasn't his presence they should have been watching. It was mine. I walked past the display cases like I belonged there. No hesitations, no glances downward. Just steady steps toward the consultation lounge where the real negotiations happened. The space they'd once told me was by invitation only. Today, I held my own invitation, truth. The boutique manager spotted us immediately. Her lips twitched in something meant to be a smile. Ms. K, she said, her tone sticky sweet. We're so glad you agreed to come back in. There's been some confusion. No, I cut in, laying the leather folder on the table without ceremony. There's been clarity. You just didn't expect me to have witnesses this time. She blinked. Her gaze drifted to Merritt, who remained politely silent, arms crossed like a calm storm waiting for direction. I opened the folder. Inside, my original sketch of the jade pendant, signed and dated months before Callista's little shopping performance. Fabric samples, notes in my handwriting, one Polaroid of me holding the first resin model, smiling in the sunlight of my old condo's balcony. The manager's eyes widened. For the first time, her hands trembled. A junior designer peeked into the lounge. I recognized her immediately. Madeline, a quiet intern I'd mentored back when I still thought Jade Vault could become something worth giving to. She mouthed, "It was you," barely audible. I nodded once. Her lips pressed together, and she disappeared from view. Then, as if on cue, Lauren strolled in with all the timing of a sitcom entrance. oversized sunglasses perched on her head, iced coffee in hand. "Oh," she said, drawing out the word, "we're bringing ex-husbands now?" Merritt turned to her, expression unreadable. "Funny," he said, his voice calm and unhurried. "You remember what I did for a living back then, but somehow forgot what I own now." Lauren's face paled, her jaw twitched. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The boutique manager cleared her throat, but it came out dry. She glanced between us like a trapped animal trying to decide which direction was safer. That's when Merritt looked at me, not at them, and said what I hadn't known I needed to hear. "Remember when you helped me survive grad school?" he asked, eyes locked on mine. I was working nights, eating instant noodles, drowning in imposter syndrome. You saw me when I didn't see myself. My breath caught. So did the manager's. "You told me I wasn't failing. I was building," he continued. "You stood by me before anyone knew my name, and you never asked for anything in return." His voice was steady, but it cracked, just barely, at the end. "They think a rich man walked in here," he said, glancing toward Lauren, "but they don't know who built him." No one spoke. Even the ice in Lauren's cup stopped crackling. I turned back to the manager. "I don't want your apology," I said. My voice was soft, but I knew it carried. "I want your silence. Going forward, you'll speak only when you're sure who's listening." The manager nodded, her gaze cast down. I closed the folder and slid it back into my bag. Then I turned and walked out. Not rushed, not dramatic, just steady. I didn't flinch when I passed the main showroom, didn't react when Lauren muttered something I couldn't quite catch, didn't even glance back to see who watched me leave. Because it didn't matter. I wasn't walking away. I was walking through. I stepped outside into the Arizona afternoon light. Merritt caught up beside me, silent as always. He didn't need to say anything. I already knew. They mocked my name behind glass. Tomorrow I'd etch it into something they couldn't take down. Friday evening came dressed in champagne, heels, and handshakes. Downtown Phoenix shimmered with glass towers catching the final orange of daylight, and inside the Jade Vault Grand Showcase, everything gleamed. The white orchids, the champagne pyramids, the hush of curated jazz swelling under the hum of ambition. And Callista. She stood near the stage, surrounded by cameras, smiling like the daughter of the year. Her dress hugged her like a throne. Her voice rang light and confident as she pointed out pieces she claimed to have inspired. The words legacy and muse fluttered around her like trained butterflies. What no one noticed, yet, was the name that hadn't made the printed program. Mine. I stood just beyond the curtain, one hand on the back of the chair reserved for someone else. Not anymore. The MC cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one of our primary sponsors and board executives, Mr. Merritt Yates." Applause followed as Merritt took the stage. He didn't wear a name tag. He didn't need one. His presence demanded attention without volume. "Thank you," he began. "It's an honor to support a company that values both innovation and legacy." He paused just long enough for people to lean in. "But tonight I won't be speaking on behalf of Jade Vault. I'm here to introduce someone who built far more than what you see here." He turned. "I'd like you to meet the woman who inspired this entire collection, and who co-owns this company." A pause. His voice softened but never wavered. "My wife, Odalyn Kay." Gasps cracked through the room like dropped glasses. I stepped forward, cameras lifted, a few whispers. Callista's jaw froze in a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, but I didn't look at her. Not yet. I walked slowly, not toward the podium but to the chair. Front row, stage left. A chair custom-made weeks ago, gold-plated plaque across the back. "Design Consultant Emerita, OK." Callista had thought it was hers. She'd picked the color, requested the placement, even asked the team to confirm the calligraphy looked elegant. It did. Just not for her. I sat. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I simply placed my hands on the arms of the chair, this chair, and waited. Merritt stepped aside. A hush spread like breath held too long. Then, a voice from somewhere middle row right. "Wait, she's the one who drew the lotus pendant sketch?" Someone else whispered, "She's the quiet sister. The real one." The phrase settled into the air like a correction finally made. From the back of the room, I saw Lauren elbowing a photographer. No one turned toward her. The boutique manager was notably absent. That told me enough. I didn't have to tell the story. It was already telling itself. Backstage, after the crowd moved to the showroom, Callista approached me. Her heels tapped too sharply against the marble, like she was trying to sound confident. "Wow," she said, adjusting her bracelet. "So this was your plan?" I met her eyes evenly. "No," I replied. "This was always the truth. You just never thought it would show up dressed nicely." Her face twitched. She started to say something else, but I turned before she could. I had nothing left to prove. I'd brought no vengeance, only evidence, and something deeper than that, stillness. As the press gathered near Merritt, I stepped toward a side table tucked discreetly beside the stage. It wasn't part of the main display. No spotlight, no gold trim, just a single glass box, lit from within. Inside sat my grandmother's wallet. The old brown leather looked soft under the lights, its edges still worn from years of hands that worked and gave. A small plaque read, "In memory of Delilah Kay, who taught grace through grit." I pressed my fingers to the glass, not for the cameras, not for the crowd, but for her. For the woman who had seen me when no one else bothered to look. I stood there for a while, letting the noise of the room fold around me like background music I no longer needed to dance to. They called me invisible. But tonight, they couldn't look away. And I never had to raise my voice. I left before dessert was served. The lights were still glowing behind me, the clinking of champagne flutes and polite applause trailing off as the lobby doors closed. My name had just been spoken on a stage I was never meant to stand on, and that was enough. By the time I reached my condo, the moon was already high. I kicked off my heels by the door, dropped the press folder on the entryway bench, and let silence wrap around me like a shawl. I didn't want celebration. I wanted stillness, to hear my breath again. In the kitchen, I filled a glass of water, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. The adrenaline had faded. All that remained was something steadier, like the earth under my feet had decided I was allowed to keep standing. My phone buzzed from the counter. Callista. I stared at the screen for a second, debating whether to open it at all. Eventually, I tapped the notification. "You embarrassed the whole family. Hope it was worth it." That was it. No punctuation, no name, just accusation. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a voicemail I hadn't listened to in years. My thumb hovered over the play button. Then I pressed. The voice that came through was grainy but warm. It wrapped around my ribcage like a memory with arms. "You don't need noise to be strong, sweetheart. Let them talk. You just keep showing up." Grandma. She must have left it during one of the family fights I tried to pretend didn't bruise me. I remembered ignoring it then, trying to push forward, to rise above it all. But now it felt like prophecy. I leaned against the fridge and let the words soak in. No tears, just relief. The kind that comes from knowing you never really lost yourself, only misplaced the volume. Later that night, I sat on the couch, scrolling through news alerts I hadn't expected. Odalyn Kay, the silent architect behind Jade Vault. Jade Vault board confirms co-founder identity after showcase surprise. Even the Scottsdale Ledger ran a headline that made me blink twice. "The name you didn't know you needed to know." I didn't care much for headlines, but I did note something. Callista's entire Instagram was wiped clean. Her posts, gone. Her captions, erased. The curated illusion collapsed under the weight of one undeniable truth. Jade Vault's corporate account released a formal statement by morning. A picture of the lotus pendant next to a printed nameplate, designed by OK, inspired by DK. There was no mention of Callista, but honestly, none of that was why I had shown up. It wasn't for the apology. It was to reclaim something I never should have had to fight for in the first place. Dignity isn't a title or a moment, it's a way of being. That next morning I woke early, not out of habit but by instinct. I threw on a soft cotton sweater, slipped into sneakers, and walked the 4 blocks to the cafe. Same cafe Lauren had humiliated me in just days ago, the one where the word knock off had stung more than expected. This time, no one looked up when I walked in. No whispers, no stares. But at the back corner table, I saw her, the junior designer from Jade Vault, the same girl who'd quietly thanked me before. She caught my eye. She mouthed the words again. "Thank you." I nodded back, not for validation, but for what came after, the continuation. That evening, I stayed in. No calls, no emails, just me, the quiet hum of my ceiling fan and a soft orange glow from the table lamp. I pulled a keepsake box from the top shelf of my closet, small, square, padded inside with velvet. I hadn't opened it in a long while. Inside was my grandmother's wallet, the same worn leather, the same crease along the fold. I didn't frame it, didn't photograph it. I didn't need the world to know what it meant. I just held it. Then I placed it gently back into the box, closed the lid, and turned to my sketchbook. There was a fresh page waiting, a pencil beside it. My fingers moved before my mind could speak, lines forming like breath. I wasn't designing to prove anything. I was designing because I could again, because I wanted to, because no one else would hold the pen this time. They never saw me coming. Because I never needed to arrive with noise. I only needed to arrive whole,